It's now my great honor to welcome Ambassador Gilad Erdan, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. We deeply appreciate his time tonight, joining us for a few minutes in the midst of a war against Israel. Mr. Ambassador, please know that all of Israel has our full-throated support in this war against Hamas. We're heartbroken for Israel, for the savage murders of 1,300 people, for the brutal attacks that have left 3,000 injured, for the people kidnapped by Hamas, and for the millions of Israelis racing to bomb shelters as Hamas rockets and their attacks continue. Our sadness is also mixed with anger and shock. We've taken the opportunity of this reception to bring people together to share support and clearly show the resilience of the Jewish people, even in the face of the unimaginable. Mr. Ambassador, terrorists will never obstruct how we support Israel and the Jewish people. Gilad Erdan has served as Israel's ambassador to the United Nations since August of 2020. From January of 2021 until November of that year, he also served as Israel's ambassador to the United States, the first person to hold roles, both of those roles, concurrently since Abba Eban in the 1950s. During Ambassador Erdan's tenure at the UN, he initiated and passed a critical resolution in the General Assembly combating Holocaust denial, making it only the second time in history that an Israeli-led resolution was passed at the UN. The ambassador served as a member of Knesset from 2003 to 2020. During that time, he was a minister, senior minister, for 11 years in several ministries in the Israeli government, including in the Security Cabinet. And from 2015 to 2020, the ambassador served as Minister of Public Security, where he was in charge of Israel's first responders, including the police and fire departments. From 2015 to 2020, Ambassador Erdan was Israel's Minister of Strategic Affairs, where he coordinated the government strategy against Palestinian-led efforts to delegitimize and to boycott the State of Israel through BDS. And I was honored and privileged, Mr. Ambassador, to be involved in many of the meetings that your ministry called and that you called during that time. As Minister of Environmental Protection, an appointment that began in 2009, he was the first to bring the issue of climate change to the center of the Israeli public agenda. Prior to serving in the Knesset, Ambassador Erdan served as an advisor to the Prime Minister of Israel, Director of the Department of Public Petitions in the Prime Minister's office, parliamentary assistant to member of Knesset Ariel Sharon, and CEO of the economic company of the Israel Builders Association. Ambassador Erdan has been an important partner and a good friend to B'nai B'rith for many years. He's been a relentless advocate for fair treatment for Israel at the United Nations, and we are truly honored and deeply grateful he has joined us tonight. Now I present to you Ambassador Gilad Erdan.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dan, for the very long introduction, I have to say. I feel privileged, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. And of course, I want to thank B'nai B'rith and all of their really impactful work for Israel and the Jewish people. As probably was said before I arrived, B'nai B'rith in Hebrew means allies. And today, as the President mentioned here, allies are what Israel needs more than ever. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Dan Maryashin, Seth Ricklin, David Michaels, I want to thank all of you, and of course, the rest of the staff at B'nai B'rith for standing strong for Israel in such trying times. By the way, you deserve a round of applause. But friends, Bnei Brit are not the only allies of Israel that I see here tonight. I see a room full of allies. Each and every one of you here and the countries and organizations that you represent are true friends of Israel. The power of a friendship is not measured during the good times, but during the hard times. And today, when Israel is suffering its most agonizing moments, it overwhelms me with emotion to see your unwavering support. We are deeply grateful to all of our allies, first and foremost, the United States and President Biden, as well as each of you and your countries for standing up for Israel. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Friends, the past 5 days have felt like a nightmare. We have seen atrocities the likes of which we have not witnessed truly since the Holocaust. And I heard stories from my grandmothers. Entire families and even communities exterminated by an unspeakable evil, like insects. The unspeakable evil of savage Hamas terrorists. Gina Smiatic, a 90-year-old loving grandmother from Kibbutz Kisufim, was dragged from her bomb shelter to be executed in her living room. Executed in cold blood. These Hamas monsters then walked down the block to the home of the Zak family, Itai, Eti, and Sagi, their 15-year-old son. They locked themselves in their bomb shelter. Of course, they were frightened. And when they refused to open the door for these barbaric terrorists, their house was lit on fire, burning the Zak family alive. Dozens of hostages, beaten, raped, and brutalized, were paraded through Gaza in front of thousands of cheering, remember it, cheering Gazans, so deeply indoctrinated to hate that kidnapped babies and defiled women made them scream with joy. Just imagine if this was your family, your child, your parent, your grandparent. The gut-wrenching stories that we are hearing are too hard to bear and too many to count. More than 1,200 were massacred, which proportionally were here in the United States, equivalent to 42,000 Americans. An atrocity 12 times bigger than 9/11, 12 times. Internalize it. The numbers are staggering and they are growing by the hour. The magnitude of this tragedy is beyond comprehension. The ISIS-like barbarity of these Hamas terrorists is truly unfathomable. Israel's main goal, after experiencing this unprecedented attack, is very, very, very clear. We must obliterate Hamas's terror capabilities. Obliterate. And it's important to emphasize, not for revenge, not for retaliation, but to ensure, only to ensure that such atrocities never occur again. This is the only way. Israel is at the forefront of the war on radical jihadist terror. And if Israel does not succeed in eradicating Hamas's terror capabilities, the whole world will pay the price. Hamas's genocidal ideology, just like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or the Ayatollah regime of Iran, is not just about annihilating, destroying Israel or the Jewish people. It is ultimately about world domination. It is about bringing the jihad war to the soil of each and every one of your countries. It's about our values, our way of life. They will not stop until they murder all of what they call the infidels. So make no mistake, as we speak, Israel is fighting in defense not only of itself, but of the entire free world. Israel is the vanguard of civilization. But sadly, mere days after over 1,000 Israelis were massacred, we are already hearing distorted statements from UN officials, not so far away from here. There are already calls for, as we are used to hearing them, calm and restraint from both sides. Calls for an end to the so-called cycle of violence. Immoral false comparisons are being made between the law-abiding democratic state of Israel and the genocidal Hamas terrorist, a designated terrorist organization here in the United States, in the European Union, in many other countries. Such statements only embolden the terrorists and contribute to their war machine. Hamas commits the most heinous atrocities, but then weaponizes international institutions to pressure Israel to stop defending itself. On the one hand, Hamas refuses to abide by our rule, by international law, or by our values, and on the other hand, they exploit the international bodies and organizations committed to these rules. And let me be clear, because many times people do not understand what we mean when we say our right to defend ourselves. The realization of Israel's right to defend itself is the obliteration of Hamas's terror capabilities. We will continue to take action until we know 100% that such an atrocity will never be repeated. Never. And, dear friends, if the UN truly stands for its values, Israel would have the full support of all officials to achieve our goal of obliterating Hamas's terror infrastructure. The UN and the Security Council, which, by the way, is meeting tomorrow, are facing their most pivotal moment. Will they remain true to their founding values on the ashes of the Holocaust and World War II, or will they empower genocidal terrorists? This shouldn't even be a question, because, friends, this is black or white. This is a black or white situation. It is good against evil, light against darkness, life against death, and the choice should be crystal clear. Friends, Israel will, God willing, complete its mission. We will succeed in obliterating Hamas's terror capabilities. We will succeed to keep our citizens safe. And we will succeed in the fight for civilization. Do you know why? Because we know that we can count on our dear friends and allies to support us all along the way. Israel is strong, Israel is resilient, and our resolve cannot be broken. Israel will prevail. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.